Hi, this is my Module 4 presentation for the KESA standards. So I'm just going to go through the rubric and all of the areas and what grade I gave both my school, Emerson Elementary, and my district, Kansas City, Kansas. So in relationships, I gave my school, Emerson, a transitioning grade. We have a family committee called Padres, and we do a ton of work with that. And we have a family coordinator who does a great job of planning outreach events to our community. However, not every school in KCK has those resources, so I gave KCK overall an implementing score. As far as relevance, I gave Emerson a implementing score and KCK a transitioning score. The reason I felt like the district deserved a higher score than my school was because the district does a really good job of making individualized plans of studies for high schoolers and making that a priority at the high school level, but it hasn't really come down to elementary yet. As far as responsive culture, Emerson is at an implementing and KCK is as well. So the reason that I gave my school particularly an implementing score is because we don't necessarily have as much of a formal leadership committee as we were probably supposed to, is what I would say. And then for the district, I think that there's a few issues, but one of them that I noticed was definitely no one in elementary school in this district is getting 100 minutes of PE every week. So I'm sure that's something the district leaders will be looking at in the future. As far as rigor, I feel like this is the weakest area for both Emerson and the district, and I gave us both implementing scores, but they're pretty low implementing scores in my opinion. I feel like this district has a lack of data-driven decisions being made, which is actually what I'm going to talk about as one of my main areas of improvement. Overall, I gave both the district and Emerson implementing scores, and that's what my principal and I kind of agreed to. As far as a leadership theory to describe my principal, Brett Bernard, he is a very laissez-faire leader. He has a largely veteran staff here at Emerson, and he kind of trusts everyone to do what they know to be best for their students. If you need him, he's very much there and willing to help, but he's not one of those principals who's going to be in your classroom every day for no reason. So the areas that I decided to choose to talk about improvement about, they're both kind of district areas. And the first one I wanted to talk about was the equitable distribution of resources. So this kind of plays into relevance, but it's also talked about in culture and rigor because I feel like technology as a special in elementary school is a majorly overlooked area in this district. So some schools have it and some schools don't. And the reason for that is because of Title I funds. So some larger schools that have a lot of Title I funds are able to use those to purchase technology as a special, whereas smaller schools don't. And I feel like this really puts smaller school students at a disadvantage in our district. As a district administrator, what I would do to combat this problem would be I would really look at my budget and see if there's anything that I could shift around to provide this at the district level rather than expecting individual schools to do it themselves. So one of the things that the rubrics talked about was bought curriculum. There's some bought curriculum in this district that's not always deemed effective by teachers and staff, so maybe we could look at that and look at how much that's costing and try to shift those resources around. There's also applying for grants, or hopefully this year the Kansas legislature will be giving more money to the district, I'm hopeful. So it seems like maybe we could use that resource. We could use that money to take care of this resource. A lot of the program standards kind of applied in this area, some about budgets and things like that, but the three that I selected were Function 2 of the Education Systems Activities, which talks about advocating for policies that promote equity, and then Function 4 of Teaching and Learning Activities, both parts A and B, where it talks about using technology to promote instructional strategies and things that benefit the students the best. The second area that I wanted to talk about improvement in is in professional learning. So in the rigor rubric, it talks about a lot about communication, about connecting your professional learning to data in terms of student outcomes and how is what we're learning in PD determining our outcomes for our students. So the district right now has a huge focus on what we call Marzano scales, which are a way of evaluating student success and their understanding of each skill that we teach. And so we should be seeing a positive correlation. Teachers who are using Marzano scales, schools that are really implementing this full force should be seeing a positive correlation in student outcomes. However, according to my principal, that's not necessarily the case. So if I was a district administrator, I would want to look fully at this data. I would want to see before and after implementation, are we getting better student outcomes? I would want to see different schools. Are some schools getting better outcomes than others because of this? Maybe they're using it more effectively. Then I would start looking at exclusionary factors. Is there some reason this isn't working for students that we could alter slightly and then it would work to meet student outcomes? And finally, if all of the data was pointing to the direction that Marzano scales are not effective professional development training, then I would start looking for something else and a different way that we could be looking to evaluate our students. The 3 program standards that I selected to go with this activity would be Ethics and Integrity Function 5, and where it talks about reviewing school procedures and making sure everything is there to benefit the students, as well as Teaching and Learning Functions 2 and 3, which talk about using data-driven decisions and evidence-based research in order to make instructional decisions that, again, benefit those students. And then also using technology along with that kind of ties into my other focus area as well. Thank you so much for watching.